still there in the morning phase. Uh, I'm not talking about anything about the product today. What we are going to talk about or discuss about or going to present is, everybody has in a boiler, everybody generate the steam. Now the most important questions comes about that when you burn the fuel, definitely you are going to have some pollutions which you are going to emit into the atmosphere. So now there are the laws and policies which has been happening in not in the Southeast Asia and the world, but we are more concerned because we stay in this particular region. So Southeast Asia is most concerned, and because we are a developing countries, like almost all countries are developing countries. So we have a limited scope of experience of how to handle, how to monitor this pollution which is going into the air. So what we do is normally we adopt the standards which is developed by the Western countries, either Europeans or Americans. That they are good standards for the testings and for the environment concerns are there. So here the question remains is we straightway adopt or we learn out of that, and what we do is we try to make it suitable for our tropical conditions of our country. So the important part is we adopted the standards. So what happened? We adopted the standards and then we started telling the industries that you have to follow the measurement standards and monitoring equipment to have in a certain testing, monitoring equipment testing as per the certain standards of Europe or America. Now the question comes, when I'll just take 2 minutes just to brief you, then we'll go for other things. The question comes, when I say you have to buy a certain certified product for the emission monitoring, I'll be talking about chimney, I'll be not talking about the boiler here. Boiler is done by all my colleagues here, the earlier speakers, they talk about the boilers. I'll be talking after the burning, the boiler steam is generated, there is a flue gas which is going to come, and that is going to be a pollutant. So there is the sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, particulate matters, that the dust particles, carbon monoxide. These are all things goes into the air, which are the most concern for the people living around or into the nearby area. So the monitoring of that particular pollutants and to control. So then the controlling system comes and you control and then you release that emission into the air. Now the monitoring equipment plays a very vital role into the entire process. The reason being is, if you don't monitor, neither you can control properly. So you are not aware what is your electrostatic perspirators, back filters, wet scrubbers, which you have kept installed before the emission for the controlling of the pollutants are really working efficiently or not. So the question is, the monitoring equipment has to be a more reliable, validated, which gives you a right information about the emissions, what you emit from your source. So the question comes now, what every nations, especially in the Southeast Asia, all countries started adopted some of the Western countries' standards of the certified equipment. But certified means I'm ensure that product which I'm using for monitoring is certified, so it performs as reliable. However, there is another aspects of this is, whatever equipment you use, all equipment carries a certain drift. And you need to have a recalibration, retesting as per the standards which is being provided. The gap which we are talking here, so the government make the policy that every industry, those who are having a boiler, those who are doing emitting the pollutions into the atmosphere, need to have a monitoring equipment, and you have to ensure certain levels of pollution should not be more than that into that. So they define certain ELVs and environment limit values, emission limit values. So in that case, they decide the policies, they prepare the policy. Now the practice comes into the picture. So what I have done, they say that you must have some certified equipment. So I just gone in European companies or American companies. We bought an equipment here. Now the certified equipments are always being tested with a certain standards. So very famous standards in entire world which is accepted is an EN standard. We call as an EN 14101 and 15267 standards, which is accepted worldwide for the performance testing of the emission monitoring system. Now the question comes, every 6 months and every year you need a calibration or the check of the performance. Now the country who, it's not about Southeast Asia, it's every country, like my India also, if I say, this is a compulsion. Okay, you have to install this as a certified system so we get the reliable data of monitoring. And on that basis, I will frame the policy of net zero of 2030, 2040, either of that. Now, the question comes about the practice gap. When I need a calibration or the performance testing of the equipment after 6 months or a year, I don't have a testing facility either in Southeast Asia or in entire Asia. I will talk about that. So the policymakers need to follow. The first thing, they should develop the competency in their nation to evaluate, to test the measuring equipment as per the international standards, and then should frame the policy. Otherwise, it's just an investment of an equipment which is you are going to doubt, or neither you are going to have any policy generations from that particular equipment data which has been generated for the environment emission. So this was my things which what I will be covering is so in the content of discussions where I'll be having this importance thought process, compliance across Southeast Asia, importance of quality and reliability, key standards, quality assurance levels, importance of regular testing, because any measuring equipment, if you are not into the regular testing and performance evaluation, is just like a black box, which is used only for the compliance purpose for the government authorities, to show that I am under the limit. But neither the officers know that you are under limit, neither you are knowing that you are under limit. You know that. So this is what I will be developing reliable measurement data to achieve sustainable quality. The people talk about ESG, people everywhere people talk about sustainability. Now what is sustainability is? The things which sustain. Either the policy you draw is sustain. The rules which you make is to sustain. Now the policy which you have drawn or you derive the policies are based on the data of maybe last 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, or maybe 70 years or 100 years. That. Now, if you are not sure that the data which I am taking from this past years are reliable or not, and if it is not reliable, accredited or validated, your policy is going to crash. So this is, you will not fail today, because I know I have 20 years in this world, or maybe 25, God grace, it gives another 30 years, But the generation next coming, they will say, my dad doesn't frame the good policy, which is sustainable. So the future generations may have a question about our policy generation, what we are going to do today. So industry where the sustainability in respect of the business continuity monitoring emissions, there is no options. You need to have monitoring, because we always go for the talk about the green environment and safe environment, that. So I will not read everything, but just here. So especially we talk about the framework. Every country in Asia, Southeast Asia, everywhere there is a framework government is forming, that you have a certain standard. You cannot have it more than this pollutants. You have to use this type of equipment. You have to use this controlling device. Either you use ESP 3-stage, 4-stage, either you put back filters or wax scrubbers for the controlling. Have a better fuels into that. This is what this is August 2024, the MOI of Thailand notifications that for the reporting of air pollution from factory chimney. This is what the Thailand government follows years, and it has been directed. So the policy has been drawn. Now the question is, Policymaker says you install the system, you measure the output of chimney, the pollutants. Now, the industry, as an industry, I am the user of the equipment. I will say, sir, where to test this equipment after 1 year? They say, no, we don't have testing facility. So, reliability of that particular equipment or so-called certified equipment, which we believe that's a god, certification is a god, we understand, that is invalid after 365 days. And then your equipment after that is as good as non-certified equipment, or I will say that you don't know the reliability. I will not say unreliable, but I will say I am not aware about the reliability, consistent reliability of the manufactured standard and after 1 year what I am using. So where to go for testing then? So I have to remove that equipment, have to send it to the Europe, the laboratory, where is only one laboratory in Germany. Are we going to do that? That's not feasible, neither practical, not advisable. So the policy, before we make any policy for the industries, we must see that do we have the infrastructure in our country or in our region to validate that equipment, to calibrate that equipment, to have the reliability of the measurement. So, the importance is the first step is system has not undergone rigorous testing and quality assurance scale that cannot be trusted. So any equipment like, see yesterday I'm here, I have a booth also here. So I'm interacting with a lot of people coming here and the industries and more of the consultants here. So I say, what is the purpose of asking for the emission monitoring system? One word they say, it's a common word they say, it is required for the compliance. It is not required for the safe green environment of my country. It is not required for by the future generation to have a better air. No. It is required only for the compliance purpose and we need to install. So this is a very serious thing which will not affect, definitely it will affect the entire motto of international theme of the green environment, zero carbon, by 2030 or 2040. This is going to be factored into that. So there is a framework, there is a mandate framework, there is quality assurance level 1. Yeah, so Europeans has done in last 200 years, they have done a lot of research and they have done a testing methodology, which is very rugged testing methodology. We must appreciate their R&Ds, we appreciate their efforts of doing this. But it has to be adopted by us by looking to our tropical conditions into that. So, air quality monitoring, emission compliance and regulatory framework, this is what we discussed. So now, what are the standards? What are the standards? This is accepted, worldwide accepted standard. If I talk about Thailand government, if I talk Malaysia, if we talk Indonesia, if we talk Vietnam, if I talk India, maybe everywhere we accept the standard of testing. And in the government policies, they write that we want the equipment which you purchase should be tested as per the standard and must be certified by an accredited laboratory. None, any other laboratory cannot do that. It has to be an accredited laboratory as per ISO IC 17025. I come from walking this place, I see that the Defense Technology Institute here. When they write that, accredited by ISO IC 17025, then it's a reliability because you have an international accreditation of your testing facility. Hence, you are able to validate the equipment. So the laboratory having the scope of validation, the testing of EN 14181, 15267, 1, 2, 3, EN 15259, these are in the RATA as per the US EPA. Then they can take or handle the testing, performance testing of your certified equipment. So obtaining TU, this is very important, what I always talk about. This you can Keep it in mind. Obtaining a TUE and AMSAT certificate for your installed CMS system is a significant milestone. Definitely, because you are going to spend a lot of money to have a certified equipment. But the relying solely on this certification is insufficient for ensuring long-term performance and compliance. You bought certified equipment, but relying lifetime on that particular certificate, it is a wrong myth, because every equipment need and calibration, recalibration, validation, performance testing at the periodic time, which I won't say the standard on which the equipment is certified, that standard says into that. We'll come on to that picture. So, importance of is a continuous performance reliability. So when you have a performance testing of equipment, you have a continuous reliability or performance reliability, or for this particular. I'll come on the chart, so I'll not discuss on this. Validation and compliance. So validation and compliance I'm talking. I'm not talking compliance validation. There is a difference between that. Compliance validation means pollution board officer came to us, we say this is a certified product, your readings are under label, so you are okay. But when I say validation and compliance, means I produce a test report of the accredited laboratory, this machine is tested as per the standard, and now the readings are coming like this, and I'm into the compliance. This is what the validation and compliance is. And that will give you a good future for the green environment. And sustainable. So when I do regular monitoring, regular testing, so your downtime goes down. Second thing, your before process, like your process of pollution reduction, pollution control monitoring, means ESPs or bag filters and all this, you can have a better preventive maintenance on that part. I asked few people, what is the certification or the testing method you have for electrostatic respirator, which you may be spending around 1.5 or 2 CR, or 5 INR, I'll be talking INR, I'm from India, okay? He said, no, nothing. But if you have a right monitoring equipment fitted into your chimney for the dust monitoring, probably you can reversely check the performance of your ESP, which is going to save money for you. How? Because you can set your frequency of as per required, and you can save the electrical. So this is an entire chain. Subject to, we follow that. So the key components is the initial certification, that is Qual 1, that QL1, Quality Assurance Level 1 we call. It is as per the EN 14181 and EN 15267. These are the standards, European standards accepted worldwide by every country except USA. USA follow the RATA method, which has its own validation method. They don't need any certification, they validate after the installations of the equipment. The periodic quality assurance test, the good part is Okay, here, so the periodic quality is Qual 2, which has to be conducted every 5 years from the date of certification of your product. Now, who can conduct this? I'll come to that point. Annual surveillance test, every year you have to perform the AST of your installed CMS system. Who can perform that? I'll come to that point next. And the relative accuracy, this is the RATA, which has to be after the installation. And especially when you install the equipment in the US, this has to be followed. They don't work on EN standard, they work on the RATA standards.